Mr. Liska.
Hey, brother.
I see that you called today. I did not call you back. Glad you showed up.
Yeah, no, sorry. You're really quiet for some reason.
Really?
I don't know why.
How about now?
Yeah, let me try that.
Cool.
Yeah, there you go.
How are you?
Oh, not bad. Kind of been an interesting day and week.
What's up?
Oh, just I don't know. I don't want to get too heavy on you.
Well, I mean, I'm game. If you're game, I don't want you to share.
No, I'm good talking about it and stuff. 2026, I decided that I was going to completely cut booze out. Wasn't going to try to keep it in my life or anything like that. I'd made that commitment before, but just had always bounced off the wagon. And I don't know, I was doing pretty good. And then Monday, ended up bouncing off the wagon. Allowed myself to get kind of selfish and feel sorry for myself and same old stuff. But just, I don't know. I know you understand, so that's why I kind of reached out and wanted to talk, or, just wanted to talk to somebody who kind of knew where I was coming from and that. But it was definitely a bender, and I'm off it now. I'm clear, and everything like that. No, nothing too terrible took place or anything like that. But no fights with the wife or anything. Just lost about 4 days.
Yeah, they call that. It's like the definition of pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. It's like the kind of demoralization where it doesn't take a train wreck wouldn't. It's like more than a train wreck, because the devastation is the things that only you can really see.
Yeah, no, and I always just feel so just like I got a boulder of guilt on my chest, afterwards. And but let me go in the room. Okay. Family just got home, so. But yeah, no, it was like I said, it was something that I'd been kind of having a hard time, not thinking about it and trying to keep myself, distracted, or just trying to keep myself kind of on the track, I guess. And I've never done AA, but I had two benders at both about a month apart. Yeah, about a month and a half, almost 2 months apart. And I for the first time, I was telling my wife, I was like, for the first time, I'm actually kind of serious about doing the AA thing. I've avoided it a lot. And there was a lot of years of being like, I'm not a true alcoholic. Like I'm just in a rough part of my life, or, it'll end after a while or something like that. And I think it was about 2 and a half months ago, something like that, right around the first of the year. I took my daughter aside and I told her, I was like, Daddy has a drinking problem, but, Daddy's something I don't admit or I've always had a hard time admitting. I was like, that I'm an alcoholic, and she said, I know. And that was hard just because it was like, I'd never really made a huge attempt to hide it from her. But yeah, it was just, anyways, getting to the good part of the story. So bender ended and started, dealing with the 2-day hangover and all that fun stuff. And, just trying to get through the day and get through the guilt and everything. And shame and all that fun stuff. And today is Friday, and on Friday they have confessions, and I always have a hard time getting myself into confession. It, like, I know I need to be going probably, twice a month or something like that, but you put it off and then you put it off, and our priest only does it like 45 minutes on a Friday, and so like if you miss it, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go another week now. And anyways, I got myself into confession, and I laid out some stuff that I hadn't really talked about before, with him. And yeah, it was, for the first time, it felt like actual confession. Well, before I felt like I was doing it to, like, because I know I was supposed to as a Catholic, and it's part of the sacraments and all that, but it was hard and kind of dry, I guess. It wasn't very emotional. It was just, like, okay, this is the stuff I'll say say the thing, admit to the things, say the thing, but a lot of times I failed to do my penance, and, I could just sometimes, like, the Divine Mercy Chaplet is not something I'm super familiar with. So taking the time to try to figure out like how to do it, and then actually try to be in a good head and heart space to actually, get through it and stuff. But anyways, so I got through confession, and priest's words were good in that. I was still having a hard time kind of feeling emotional. I always have a hard time, like, because I know when we feel like we're sorry, we should have that emotional kind of, like cry at least or something, but I don't know. I've been like emotionally constipated for quite a while now, and it just sometimes like crying or feeling like trying to summon that sense of feeling sorry is difficult. But anyways, got through that. I did fulfill my penance. He had me do my rosary, and so I actually just took the time right there and there after confession and did that, and it was good. And then I've been a little stressed lately. Work is a little spotty. I'm getting more jobs coming in and stuff like that, and it's just stressful trying to keep money in the accounts. And sometimes it just seems like it's like you get a decent amount of money and it's just gone. It's like, and the winter, it was kind of hard. God took care of us better this winter than we have. I guess what I'm saying is I've been provided for, but I've been worrying, and I shouldn't have been doing that, or just feeling anxious and anxiety. But anyways, there was a job I did back, finished up like February 2nd. It was for a hospital, and it was like a $2,500 check, which that keeps bills and stuff on and that. But it wouldn't show up. Like, I knew they took a long time to pay, but he said because you're a local vendor and that, he's like, we'll try to rush it along. But I mean, it was like 2 months or something, and we're just like, I'm like, dude, like I was just getting anxious about it, because yeah. Anyways, so go to confession, come back to the house, just in my thoughts, and things like that. And I was praying. I was like, God, our needs, and and when I open that mailbox, if the check's not in there, I have to accept that. That's I didn't do anything, wrong to screw up the mail or anything like that. As far as I could tell, I fulfilled the job and did everything. So, but you can't help but feeling like you might be getting punished, by God, because you screwed up. And, now this thing that you kind of have been wanting is, seems to just have disappeared or whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I think I was in fear. And I mean, like I said, I'm kind of just sorting through all this stuff. So, I was I was fearful. Anyways, I open up the mailbox. It's not in there. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. It'll get bounced back. It'll be another week, maybe 2, but eventually we'll get it. For right now, we're fine. got some money in the account, got savings, stuff like that. But instantly, feeling kind of nervous. Mail guy normally comes around like 4. It's like 5:30, something like that. We finally see the truck because I thought we just didn't get any mail today, and that. But finally see the mail truck come around, and I just asked him. I was like, "Hey, I think the hospital might not have put my apartment number on the thing. I was just curious, maybe it, you had it in the truck or it got put in another mail slot or something like that." He's like, "No." He's like, "Usually I send them right back if they don't have an apartment number on them." He's like, "I just kick them right back to the thing." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Well," and our local mail is so silly. It goes like way down to Albuquerque and then comes back and stuff. And so I was kind of like, oh, okay, and I was like, "About how long does that take?" And he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "Sometimes it could probably take a while." And that he's like, "You might just have them, cancel and send another or something like." And I was like thinking about that process, and I was like, it's gonna be a pain, to deal with accounting and everything. So I'm like, "All right, man. Well," I'm like, "Yeah, well, do what you can, or if you come across it or however, He's like, "Okay, yeah." He's like, "Now that I know who you are and the mail slot," he's like, "I'll keep an eye out for it." Starts pulling away, and all of a sudden I hear his brake slam on, and he goes, Whoa, wait, dude, wait." He's like, "I got it right here." He's like, "It was sitting on my lap." It's like, and like I said, it's not like changing money, but it did change my life today. Because I didn't, and this is the first time I've cried in or started to even get emotional, months. But yeah, I grabbed that guy's hand. I was like, I was like, "Man," I was like, "Thank you." I was like, yeah, I was like, "I was praying, man." He's like, "Oh," he's like, "I get it. I get it." And I was like, he's so faithful in spite of our lack of faith. And I was playing with my daughter outside while we were waiting for the mail guy. Probably she doesn't listen. She doesn't listen at all. And she decided she was going to sit in this kind of basketball hoop thing that they got laying down on the ground. And when she sits in it, she can't get out. And so she sits in it and then, tries to squirm out, can't. Okay, well, you can't be getting in there. Pull her out. She does it again. 2 seconds later. "Daddy, pull me out." "Okay, come here." And then, finally by the 3rd or 4th time, I'm kind of like, you can't be doing that, sweetie. I was like, "You can't get out of there." And I'm watching her struggle every time, expecting a different result. And all of a sudden I realized, I was like, that's just like me and God, I'd do this to myself and I'd just get myself, right back in a mud puddle. And I don't have any understanding of how he can take care of me so well when I abuse our relationship like that. That when I grabbed those beers on Monday, I was turning the channel. I was switching off of God because I knew that my priest had even given me permission to give him a call. And I thought about it for a split second and I pushed it right out of my head. I had an interaction with my ex this past weekend, and my daughter's getting older, and I'm just realizing that, we spend too much time on our phones, and, I lost years to drinking, and I was just feeling that, and anyways, and there's some other stuff, but I feel like my daughter and me are sometimes kind of, there's a bit of a void starting to grow between us,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just kind of, when me and my ex were talking and that, it kind of put me, put me in a negative space, and it was something so simple. It was like when you fall over like a little stick or, a little pebble. And it was
Mhm.
like, I don't have any family right now that's like got cancer. I've been so blessed in that I got a decently large family and I haven't really lost anybody super close to me. I mean, grandparents, yes, but it was expected. We knew it was coming, things like that. But I haven't had anybody, like that just takes care of me. I'm just blessed and that I haven't had to go through some of these things that I see other people going through. And then the guilt is that I make my life hard. And I don't want to stay in that headspace, because it's hard to stay there, and that's what, as far as I understand it, that's what confession's for. Is I was just telling my wife that I said it's the promise of Scripture is that it's been forgiven. If you acknowledge these, He is faithful and just to forgive us. And that's about really the only way I could move on today.
Yeah.
And yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to dump on you.
No, you're speaking my language, man. I really relate to the pettiness, like the kind of being puzzled at, why do I feel so kind of ungrateful? I'm not, my family isn't, there are people who have it far worse than me, and yet, it's the petty shit that seems to kind of destroy me. And I never realized it until you just said it, but it made me think of why it's so important for me to acknowledge and recognize it's something like recognize the true shape, the true size of I'm not as I always it's like this it's hard to articulate. It's like I have this assumption that I don't really ever think about, but that I'm somehow should be greater than I am.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it's not that I think that I'm less than. I mean, sometimes I feel that way, but that's not really the thing that gets to me. It's that I should be more than I am.
Yeah.
And that's like this the true thing is I need a father. That's the true thing. And to see that I'm a grown man, but in the spiritual realm, I'm just like my little daughter, and I will always be that. I mean, I think that's what it kind of means to have like childlike faith in a sense. It's like, and that's why, like the idea of if, taking voluntary action towards humility or being humbled is what I need, because I don't know how to be humble otherwise. So I have to kind of like do my best to humble myself, because what I've found is that either way, I'll be humbled whether I like it or not. So I try to align what I think my will is with what I think God's will for me is to try to humble myself. And that's why I like the petty stuff. Look, I mean, it's so hard. The petty stuff is so hard. But I was thinking about this idea of like, it's okay to be a child.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I think it's a good place to be. I mean, you really think of just even just relating it to the organism of a child, like the human, that you're doing the most growing, you're doing the most, things, your brain and everything is doing the most as a child, but yeah, no, I think that you said that you're not as much, or you feel like you should be more than you are. And I had a unique childhood, being homeschooled and stuff. And my relationship with my mom wasn't good. She was going through some emotional stuff, and it, happened. I was a rambunctious kid. So me and her's relationship took a hit there. But I wasn't, sometimes I'm like, there's things that like I memories and things that I hold on to of like, I was so little, and I learned how to hide away certain things in my head, and I'd be like, I'll get back at you later. I don't care if I don't care if I'm 50, and I'll make it. I'll get even with you somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And I just harbored this bitter, and I didn't understand that it was bitterness. Like, I didn't ever really sort through that, because I was like, I'm not bitter. I laugh all the time. Like, but
that resentment is like a poison that I take, hoping that you die.
Yeah. No. And that's what I didn't realize. Like, now that I'm clear and, I'm getting this stuff out, like the thoughts just roll, and I, the connections of like, oh yeah, and I kind of knew some of this stuff, but yeah, it just, I feel like what I've done a lot with my relationship with God is falsely offer things up to him, to falsely sacrifice, meaning that like, God, I'm going to give this to you. And then, a few days later, I'm, go over there and get it, take it back.
Yeah. I like this. Somebody has, that I know talked about it, like throwing in the towel, right? But then I run in real quick back into the ring and I grab that towel. But now my job is to kind of like rip off little pieces and throw it in little at a time. Because I don't, and then maybe when the time is right, then I can fully surrender. But that's this idealistic idea that I can just be the man that throws in the towel and totally surrenders is like, again, I don't know. Like when you were sharing, some of the stuff that I was thinking about was like, and it's so natural for, I think, us to think, to act this way and think this way. It's like I assign certain kinds of responses that I think I should have, and I put them in like this automatic response. And when they don't happen, I think there's something wrong with me, right? But the thing is I somewhere along the line, I got this idea that I should respond to life in this manner. And because I was taught that, or maybe that's most people can act that way, but I just can't. And so like what I've learned is like, I try to listen to these old wise weirdos who are like, life is like a loose garment. Wear like life like a loose garment. In other words, like we're not the author. And like, okay, so I really love your story. I can't tell you what to do, but I know that I think we trust each other. We've had enough of a relationship where, you call me, and we talk about these real things. I was at a meeting yesterday, and there's a guy there, and he was talking about how he just took like a 6-month chip for being off of meth. But he's like, it's the only meeting he's ever been to before. But he only went because he told like the the house manager that he would go to one meeting before he leaves the house. He hasn't had a drink of alcohol, a drop of alcohol in like 13 years.
Oh, wow.
But here's the thing. He's like sharing his experience, one that is foreign to me. I haven't had a drink in 13 years. And not because of any kind of active like will. It's pure grace, really. But his experience is different. His is a willful experience. He says that he thinks about alcohol almost every day, and like to not drink is the thing that gets him through. And he doesn't like people. I can relate to that. I think I don't like people. I actually do like people. I like connecting.
Mm-hmm.
When the petty person within me steps out, that's the dude that doesn't like people, who tries to convince me that I don't like people. That's bullshit. I love being connected. I think what I really don't like is when my connection with people is sullied. I don't like being at war with people. So his whole experience is very, very different than mine. He's going through 13. Can you imagine thinking about a drink for 13 years and not having one? That sounds like shit.
Well, that's why for me personally, my brother is also an alcoholic, and he did the AA thing a while back. Mm-hmm. And I feel like his is kind of a hybrid maybe of willfulness and that, because like what you just said about like him not drinking is what gets him through the day.
Yeah.
And that, but he's a very very driven, disciplined person, mm-hmm. and he's like, I mean, he can run like marathons, and he was in
relationships.
What's that?
Does he have good relationships?
Yes. Yeah. Now that he's sober but I don't feel very connected. I feel connected to him, but I feel like our relationship changed a lot when he got sober. Mm-hmm. And I think I didn't want that for me. Like, I didn't want to just be this kind of, because there for a while he was kind of depressing to be around, honestly. Like, he just was quiet and kind of to himself, and just, seemed like he didn't really care about a lot of the things that were going on in the world. Like, I'd send him a thing of, like, I don't know, like when the Trump assassination thing happened or whatever. And he, his reaction is always very like me, I'm like, holy crap, like crap, like this is crazy, and everything like that. And his is more like, like, okay, well, we'll see how it plays out. You know what I mean? And just, real quick. But I don't, one of the prayers we pray in Mass is, I think it's authored by St. Augustine, and it says, I come sick to the doctor, and I want to be healed. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what my actual desire is to be healed of this. Like, if the promise in the scriptures is true, then that is, I should, I want a wellspring of love in my life to come up. Yeah. I've never really understood, growing up in that, I heard about the hole in your soul, and, you're going to try to stuff it. And I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of get that. But until you're actually able to pull back from your life and go like, oh, that's that. I was doing it with that. I was doing it with that. I was doing it with that. I was stuffing stuff in there, and even though I've been a Christian my entire life, I don't know that I've just always felt sick. I've always felt.
You nailed it.
Yeah. I just always felt sick. There was things that I would do in private that nobody knew about. When I would go drinking, I would get weird, just oddball behavior, and even, being with people sexually that I would, never ever do that, or anything like that. And, as soon as I was drinking, it was just like, it was all out the door. It was like instant fuck it mode.
Yeah. Well, I'll say it like this. I haven't, like I said, I haven't had alcohol and a drop of alcohol. And well, no, I take that back because I do communion now, but I don't consider that alcohol. So, but yeah, I haven't drank in like I said, 13 years. But and I'm alcoholic, but alcohol is not my problem. I have the sickness that you're talking about. That's what I like to call a spiritual malady. And what I mean by that is like my connection with so the connection, perception, either way, whatever word you want to use there, with the world is off. It's and my place in it is off. And so my family, my friends, God, my perception of where I think I should be, how I think I should feel, why aren't they acting how I think they should act? All these different things are all the spiritual, they're all symptoms of a spiritual sickness. And it's a perception problem that I can't solve. I can't just change my mind into the kind of person that can see the world rightly. If I could do that, I would do it because it fucking hurts to not be able to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why I suggest if you relate to what I have, like there's a reason why the 12-step programs are still around.
Yeah. No, and I'm finally seeing the wisdom of that.
The thing is like if it didn't work, they would have stopped talking about like 89 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not that they ask you to worship how they would like you to. It's not what is like, because I've been trying to think of a way to convey this. It's really, to me, it's so simple. The way that this idea makes perfect sense is like, and this is why I'm able to kind of like be in a room with like Christians of various kinds, people who claim to be atheists, people who claim to be spiritual but not religious, Muslims, Jews. All of us are in the same room. Like when we go to the meetings, and the meeting is not a solution to a problem. The meeting is a place where I can practice fellowship because fellowship is hard for me. Right. So meeting is a place where I could kind of like, it's like going to the gym or something where I can like, you go to the gym to lift weights so that you can become more strong. Right. You're not like doing any actual work at the gym. You're just kind of doing maintenance there. That's what a meeting is like. It's a maintenance, a thing for maintenance between me and the rest of the world. But the steps, now that's a different thing. The steps are very simple. It's a thing that requires me, if I admit that I have this sickness, this spiritual sickness, and really that's all it really is. If I admit that, and I really believe that to be the case, and by admitting that, I admit that I can't solve it on my own. What the process of the steps does is it clears the way. So you said, and I've heard a lot of people say this, it's like I have this hole in my soul. It's a God-shaped hole. I feel it. Okay, that makes some sense to me. But another way I like to look at it is I've actually just taken a bunch of me and all the things I want and all the things I think I need, all the things that I'm afraid of, all this stuff, and I throw it in front of my between me and God and me and the rest of the world. And so what the steps do is it clears it away. It takes all of those things in an honest way that nobody can make me do. Nobody can convince me of this either. Like, this is the darkest part in the forest that each of us have our own darkest spot in the forest that we have to go to, and that's what it is. But it's simple. And it had to be so simple that like somebody with like a first grade education could do the same exact thing as like whatever, some fucking physicist, right? And the same as like a priest. All these different cats had to be able to do the same process. So it's just simple. It just requires an honesty that is vital, and that's vital, and it's life-giving in that way. And confession, like, I love that you talked about confession and you had like a real confession. Like the other confessions, saying it out loud is kind of like, that's not the sacrament. The sacrament is what happens when I sacrifice the thing, right? Like I actually take, like, because okay, so like in the fifth step is like confession. It says we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. That's a confession, right? But so we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being. It's an interesting trinity, because I don't think I've actually admitted to God or to myself until I actually admit it to another human being, right? Because I can think, God already knows, and well, I already know because I wrote this shit down, and it's not the thing that I think. See, like the things that I didn't want to confess. See, I thought it was like the big shit, the big weird shit that you're talking about. No, it was like I stole money from somebody that asked me to help them. And I stole money from them, and I was afraid to admit that to another person because I was afraid of what the other person would think of me because I did that sort of thing. That's a real confession there, because like that's the thing that's killing me. That little thing that says I can't say that I stole money from somebody. That's whatever that is. That's kind of like the center of my spiritual illness is in there. And it's like it's rooted in self. And I don't even know this is happening, really. I mean, I have some vague idea because I feel like shit all the time, but that's just one instance. And so like to kind of like really do that, that's what the steps actually are. I mean, they're just so like it's a whole process that it's like this I don't know. The language is, there's all sorts of ways you can describe it. It's a dying to self, truly. It's and it's not so that I feel better, and it's not even so that I get better. We think that's what it is when we're doing it because I feel like shit and I need to get well and I'm destroying. Oh, okay, that's not really what it is. It's so that I can actually be in the world. Like even if I am uncomfortable, even if I'm the kind of person that feels like they don't like people and I'm afraid of people, I can actually be in the world with those people and walk with God with those people. All of my fears are all rooted in self-sufficiency. They are, and my like this heart-wrenching feeling that I can't, that my inability to be actually self-sufficient, and it's my reliance and sufficiency should be upon God, and I can't do that just me and God. Not really. I mean, because I live in the world with people. I would just suggest, man, and if you do this, we don't need to tell everybody here, right? The 3 people that are listening. But if you decide you want to actually go through with this, I will help you get connected in a real way to people where you live. And they're not going to change your opinions on God or your relationship with the church. That's not what it's there for. It's there so that you can actually increase your relationship in those places. That's what it's actually there for. A God of the whole idea of a God of your own understanding, all that means is I understand that I'm not God and God is. That's what a God of my understanding is. I'm not God and God is, and the God idea works and my ideas don't. And so it's like it's a radical surrender. And surrender is like like when the Japanese surrendered, like what do? They like set all their weapons aside, all the things that they would have that they would use to defend themselves. They would set it all aside, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. And then they did what they asked. Okay, now what do I do next? That's what a real surrender is, and then they actually do the thing that the whoever it is that they surrendered to actually tell them, go do this, okay, we'll do that, and then they flourished after that. And they wouldn't do it unless there was total annihilation. They weren't going to surrender until there was total annihilation. That's what it takes, and it doesn't mean I don't need to get in fist fights and do the crazy shit. It's I woke up after a 4-day bender and nobody said a fucking thing to me about it, but I knew. That's the kind of annihilation. That's a bad annihilation. That's a sufficient one if you allow it to be. And you don't have to be the guy that sits and thinks about not taking a drink for 13 years. I haven't thought about a drink and I can't remember fucking how long. I don't sit around thinking about how to stay sober. It just doesn't. It's not a part of my life. And that's not because it's something I did. It's because the only thing I did was reluctantly surrender one bit of the towel at a time that I could. Every day, whether I fucking liked it or not. That's the decision. It's a decision that you make and you stick to it no matter fucking what. Right? And the decision is my ideas don't work. And I'm willing to suffer for this better idea. And the suffering it's petty suffering. You think you have to suffer big. So that's why you drink. Oh, I have to suffer big, so I'm going to drink. That's a big suffer. No, dude, a way better suffering, a way more meaningful suffering is the one where you don't drink and you just work through it and you be there for your daughter and you be the kind of man that can show her that you just be there for her. And that we could admit our faults and those different kinds of things. So, yeah. Call anytime, dude. I'd be happy to try and help you get connected.
No, yeah, I'm gonna look into where the meetings are at here in town and stuff. But yeah, I'll get you a call. And like I said, I put off calling myself an alcoholic for a really long time because when I was first trying to, I tend to do things in reverse order. I don't know why. It's I could have just, started going to church again. And I could have just, started putting my life back together a little bit. But I go down this giant YouTube rabbit hole and discover the Catholic Church, which I never knew anything about, and I radically changed my life. And, to where I'm not going to church at all. And then I'm going every Sunday and trying to hit days of obligation and, trying to perform the sacraments and, trying to get my marriage actually, fully in the church and that, yeah. And it's just, it would have been a lot I'm glad that I'm here, that I got to the point where I need to be, but where I'm actually, okay with saying that I'm an alcoholic, and it just, I didn't want to admit that I did. And I would find all sorts of ways to be like, no, I'm more of a drunk. I'm not a textbook alcoholic. It's like, yeah, I go on benders, but I could put it down for handfuls of months, and stuff like that. And and as long as I got my other, like a little bit of weed in the evening to put me to sleep and stuff like that. And but even that is temporary. It doesn't really fix anything, and kind of makes me really drowsy, and so it's not really
all these are just little, they're just little gods that we go to when we're not actually,
yeah, no, during confession I was sitting there, and like I said, all this is foreign to me. It's not like I have to use the pamphlets to remember what to say and all that kind of stuff, and to even remember how to go about it. And that, but like, I've been Catholic now for like 3.5 years, and I still, I miss parts of the mass. Like, I'm like, oh, wait, what are we doing? Or what are we saying? And like, sometimes yeah, like I said, I've only been to confession like 4 times, about 6 times, I think, in the 3 years in that, because for the first 2 years, I couldn't bring myself to get in there. I made excuses. I'm finding out that as I'm getting away from alcohol and that I'm not the person I thought I was in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a lot of pride in that, and I didn't recognize it as pride. I just like, no, that's just part of my personality. Like,
the sacraments aren't punishment; they're nourishment.
And see, that was what you just said right there, is trying to get my head wrapped around that. Like, okay, like, take your medicine. It's hard. Sometimes hard, and it doesn't taste very good. But you need to do it. And I think I wasn't wanting to admit that I was sick in the way that I am.
Right.
But no, I do feel like.
So for me, like, this idea of being an alcoholic, it's like that in itself has become baptized in a way, because like, I don't like, it's not like a scarlet letter at all. And it's actually the actual meaning of it to me has been transformed. Like, so yeah, before it meant like before I came into recovery, an alcoholic was somebody else, not me as that fucking guy. And then it was, wow, what the fuck just happened? Clearly I'm an alcoholic, even though I don't really know what that means. All I have is like a visceral colliding with what that is. And then it turns into, okay, so here's a good definition of an alcoholic. An alcoholic is somebody who, once they start drinking, they can't control how much they drink. They generally always lose control over the amount they drink once they start. Maybe not every time, but basically every time. Okay. And the worst part is when I say that I can't, or I'm done and I'm not going to do it again, I end up going back to it again. Right. And then I repeat that process where I drink again and I can't control how much I drink. And I wake up remorseful, like, why the fuck did I do that? I'm not going to do it again. I don't drink for 3 months. And then I drink because I think I can do it again. And then I drink, and then I kick off that thing where it asks for more, and I can't control how much I drink, because for who the fuck knows why, it doesn't really matter why. The fact is I have it. So that's the definition I come to in the early recovery. As I grow in recovery, the definition of an alcoholic is I'm the man who, when I drank, I couldn't control how much I drank. And I couldn't stay away from it, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. And the only way that I was able to overcome that was through a relationship with God, which I found through the steps. And now I get to help somebody else. That's what it means to be an alcoholic. And so it's a way of, my whole life and everything in it, all the beautiful things that have happened in my life are only because I'm an alcoholic in God's grace. That is a tremendous gift. And I mean, I would not be married. I would not have this home. I would not have my daughter. I would not have a relationship with God. I would have none of the peace. I would not have the ability to walk through the horse shit that I have to walk through on a daily basis. The petty shit that I put myself through, I would not be able to do that without being an alcoholic. So it's a gift. It's not a punishment. And the way that, so that's what the steps did. They reorient me and change my perception of how I can actually be in the world. I could not do that myself. And God had to use all these other methods to get me to a place where I could actually hear him and see him.
I was thinking of that, and I always think of, on my arm, I have a tattoo I put on there a long time ago. It says, "My Father, give me the strength to follow the path that you have laid before me. May I never leave it all the days of my life." That was intentional. I meant it. Obviously, I fall off the path quite a bit, but it was the intention of it. And even though I stuck it on my arm, like I couldn't live up to my own tattoo, you know, and like you said, that I know there's a path, you know, that that I don't know how long I'll live, but you know, there's a path through the next, you know, several years. And there could be people that, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is God sews the world together with people and connections. And I know these things, but it's one thing to I have a head heart disconnect or something. Like I can know it, but and like I said, I you know, I'm only coming to some of this stuff now. As far as I feel like I wasted a lot of years, like, because I mean, people ask me to, you know, like, yeah, just get yourself into AA, man. Yeah, you know, it's probably what you need to do. You know, my brother was encouraging me, but I mean, I kept thinking that I could outthink it. Like like you said, it doesn't really matter why. You know, it could be you know, I think I saw some YouTube clip that said something about like there could be an enzyme in your stomach that, you know, or you know, one brain cell, or, you know, like I said, like you said, it doesn't really matter why and that. But I know that I just know there's a path. And like I said, I put off going to AA, and there could be people there that I need to meet on my path. And, you know, they need to meet me and I need to meet them. And like you said, I have a similar, I don't like surface conversations. I find them awkward and that, like I told my dad one time, I was like, Dad, because he's very quick with his conversations and stuff like that. And if we talk too long, we start arguing. So that's probably why he does that. I'm probably to blame for our relationship not being as good as it could be, you know, and that, but because I argue with him and things like that. But sorry, I lost my train of thought for a sec. Yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But
the why is like asking. It's like the why is funny to me, because it's like watching your house burn down and asking why is it burning down, rather than doing all you could do to put it out. You know.
Yeah.
It's like it's a total distraction from actually surrender. Like,
yeah,
put the fucking fire out and get to living. I mean, that's, you know.
That's like what you just said there, put the fire out and get to living. Like, I don't feel like when I'm drinking, I'm not living. I'm hiding things. I'm trying to not let this spiral too far out of control, but yet, you know, try to have a good time while I'm at it, you know, because, you know, if you bounced off the wagon, you know, I don't, this stupid little immature childish brain, you know, enjoy yourself, you know, because, you know, you gotta sober up sometime, you know, and that. But I don't know. I was on my way to church, and I think I finally, death, burial, and resurrection, you know, that I want to be a different person. Yeah. I want to I just want to be a different person. I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better,
Yes.
all those things. And it's
You
like, I
won't
know
think
it's,
your way into it. It will not happen through thought. It
yeah,
just won't happen.
yeah. And
You
I
have to
think,
walk through it. You have to go on like your life has to become a pilgrimage, which actually means like an actual daily. That's why it's a practical program. It like the 12 steps are they're what do they call it? Pragmatic. It's a pragmatic program because like you guys like you and I, we like to think about stuff, and yeah, you like to do stuff, but like you don't think about going to work and get a paycheck. You fucking go to work to get the paycheck.
yeah,
Like that's a spiritual life in a lot of ways is akin to that. It's not exactly the same, but if I want to be the kind of person that can actually think about the world in a way that's kind of more true, I have to actually live in that world, and I don't know how to do that. So I do this other path where I kind of surrender my management to the management of the steps. This process is kind of like it's a method. If I do that, then it it's like it changes how I like that. Do you ever see that thing where the bicycle, where the dude took the handlebars and he made it so he took where when you turn right on the bike goes left, and you turn left on the bike goes right. He
uh-uh.
reversed turning, he reversed the turning on the bicycle, right? And he was like a professional bicyclist, and he could not ride the bike.
Oh,
It took,
wow.
it took him like 9 months or some ridiculous shit like this to learn how to ride the bike,
Wow.
right? Here's the fucking thing. Once he learned how to ride the bike, he couldn't ride a regular bike. So like
He
that
literally rewired his brain.
and that's kind of like how I like to view kind of the process of these steps because they actually require me to stop thinking and start acting. It's a program of action. They say the magic word is action. Well, that means prayer and writing and all this stuff and like getting up out of the chair and going to the meeting and hanging out with these people who are weird, and they're weird because they're happy and sober at the same time, and like all that kind of stuff. It's like it's very strange because like I have an image of what it should be like. Like it should be how are they happy? Because my experience with sobriety or abstinence is probably a better word. My experience with abstinence is that it sucks. It's like, and it literally sucks. Abstinence sucks the life out of me.
It's probably like, I didn't realize that I get anxious when I'm bored.
Mhm.
Like I didn't ever really make that notice of myself, but yeah, if I don't have something to fidget with or something like that, like, or like, okay, what's the next thing I'm going to be doing? Like where, or whatever. In my life, I quit a job last year in April, and it wasn't a good quit. It was like, and I've never quit a job before. I've always, put in my 2 weeks and, everything like that. And I've always had my dad installed us with a very good work ethic, and I've
Mhm.
been called a good worker and things like that. And there were some things going on at the company that I was just like, I just felt like I wasn't being listened to. As somebody with a lot of experience that should have been listened to, I wasn't. And at home, girls only listen so much to their dad and stuff. And I kind of flipped out one day that and yeah, I porched a bridge behind me basically. And I apologized, and things like that. I didn't break anything, didn't get arrested or anything like that. But yeah, I wouldn't be working there anymore. And we had Anita was pregnant, and that actually might have been the last time I cried was, yeah, last year I went to the church and I just cried because I didn't know what I had just done. I was like, I just put my family in jeopardy, and I it happened so quick. And
Yeah.
like in my head, I was like, no, that this needs to be said right now by me, and I didn't know if I did a bad thing or a good thing, because I had reasons, but anyways. And I just prior to that, I had been doing really, good with not drinking. but it was the routine of the job. It was a job I had to wake up for super early, and it was out of town. So I was like gone from the house 12 to 13 hours out of the day. And I was just tired on the weekends all the time and stuff like that. But that routine, that kept me on track. As soon as the routine was gone, that's when I started realizing, like, you can be motivated for a boss, you can work really hard at work, you can do these things, but if like when you actually have to go get jobs for yourself, because I decided to go work, start working for myself again, and didn't have many leads. It wasn't financially planned out at all, me quitting or whatever. And somehow, through the grace of God, literally, we got through. And, I wouldn't consider myself successful in any, means right now. I'm still, like I said, jobs are spotty. I'm not doing a very good job of advertising. Equipment is what it is. I got a pretty basic setup, and, truck is breaking down all the time and stuff. But anyways, just typical stuff. But it was hard for me to realize that I fall off when I didn't have a boss. Like, if there wasn't, if I didn't have a boss, then like I fall, like it hurt for me to find out that I have a hard time taking responsibility for myself. Because like everybody complains about their work, but most people wouldn't be like, well, just go work for yourself, because anyways. But like without somebody to tell me, like, or without, like, I didn't have a boss to disappoint. Like if I didn't wake up until 9, I was like, okay, well, didn't wake up until 9 today. Didn't have a job, didn't have any jobs going. So I shouldn't necessarily feel guilty about that, or anything. But yeah, my discipline just, it wasn't there like I thought it would be, you know what I mean? And then coming face to face with that as I'm getting older and getting more tired, and, climbing's harder. It's easier and harder at the same time. Experience makes it easier, but the body starts, getting pretty tired fast. But anyways, it's just, I thought that I would be able to manage myself better. And it was crushing to realize that you can be really critical of all your bosses, but you can't, like, literally these ones that you thought were kind of like idiots or, constantly paying attention to the wrong thing, and that, like, you can't do any better. You know what I mean? And that, like, you're when you do it for yourself, you're just as disorganized. You're just as, don't do your maintenance, and stuff like that. Just like they don't, what I mean? I said, things you used to be critical of.
Not to mention not being able to get the jobs that you'd like to be able to get.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and
that's that's really hard.
Yeah. No, I mean, and just to realize, that there's and like I said, again, God is so good.
Yeah.
One of the guys at the church is a landscaper. And so, yeah, there's just all these little micro connections that, I've been able to have jobs show up out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Somebody recommended, my sister-in-law is a physical therapist, and she gave my name to some lady like a year ago. It was like a year and a half ago or something like that. And she called me out of the blue right when I needed work, and this is, even with the blessings of work, I still found a way to spit in God's face about it, and not go do the jobs this week. And I lost 4 days.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't lose those jobs, as far as I know, when I call them up, and that everything's still good. I just pushed them off, and, I'm over here worrying about money, and then I go on a bender, anyways, and I don't want to stay in this negative space, but it was just,
it's just normal to me. That everything you're describing is just textbook things that guys like us walk through until we find a way to walk through it with more more integrity and grace. And the thing, again, it's like I can't change my mind about. I have the inability to really truly change my mind about the restlessness, irritability, and discontentedness that I'm plagued with. The only way I've been able to actually contend with those things truly is through these very practical daily maintenance things that the steps have offered me, and that's all I know. Like, there's guys that call me that refuse to go and humble themselves before this simple process, and they're like, and we are the kind of people that can hunker down like in a like we can be like a mule in a fucking hailstorm. We'll just hunker down. We'll just fucking take it. We'll just fucking take it for as long, and it's like, you don't have to do that. That's just, you don't have to do that. It's pointless suffering. Like,
Yeah.
you could suffer with a purpose. Like, because I think the suffering is always kind of on the table, so that's always going to be a part of it. Like, that's just a reality that I think that we have in life. But yeah, I mean, I don't have to like crawl on my fucking hands and knees through glass for the rest of my damn life.
No.
Like, I just do the stupid shit of writing down stuff. Ugh, it's so annoying. And it's so annoying because, back to like what we were saying really early on, it's like, I'm the kind of person who thinks that I should be better than I am by now. It's like, first of all, I lack perspective. I am a lot better than I once was, and I can't even see it, right? But if I talk to people who know me well and stuff, they're like, dude, what the fuck? You're just like stuck in your own little shit shed. Like, you're way different than the kind of man that you were, whatever, even a year ago or whatever. So my opinions about progress, where I am in progress, all those different kinds of things, they're fine. But what's important, I think that's why living by principles for somebody like me is very important, because then I don't have to get hung up on my opinions about the situation. I can just adhere to the principles, these simple principles that are laid out. And I always get like better results than I could have ever done on my own. And so I'm not really, I hope you don't think I'm trying to sell this. I'm just trying to tell you, from friend to friend, like, you don't have to fucking suffer in this fucking really ridiculous way for the rest of your life. You could suffer better.
No, and I think, I ready to be different. Mm-hmm. Just simple things like, you're talking about writing things down and that, and like, somehow in my stupid head, I'm disorganized and I'm too stubborn to like, put a notebook in my pocket and just develop that discipline.
Oh, yeah, dude. I had this job where and this was even like a few years ago. The job required me at the end of, because I got paid bi-weekly, and so you put in your time card every 2 weeks, and the job would require me to, on the time card, write out where I was, what time it was, what day it was, what I did on the job. And at the end of every 2 weeks, I'd be like, what the fuck did I do like 2 Mondays ago?
Yeah.
And like, if I had the stupid notebook, I just write it down at the end of the day, my life would just be so much fucking simpler. But I'm the kind of person that won't do it. And right there is where it tells you the kind of man that I am. Because it's not that like, there's something about that kind of like explains my whole the kind of man I am in a nutshell, is exactly what you're saying. And it's like, so why do I do that? I don't fucking know. Why do I have to answer for that? It's like I don't have an answer for that. All I know is like I like now what I do is at the end of the day, I take pictures of the job. When I get in the truck, I take a picture of the clock. It's all on my phone. So now, like on Monday when I get there, I look at my calendar. Okay, last week was the whatever. Monday was that day. I just so like, but like, man, we're not meant to carry all that pointless, stupid shit around in our head for, and like do all this crazy stuff where make it so complicated, man. Why are we so complicated?
Yeah. No, that's one of the reasons, like as I've gotten better at my job over the years, it's gotten increasingly harder to work for other people because they'll do something like develop a system like that. And I'm like, this is so far away from what the most important thing about arboriculture is. It's like, that like I can't, it just, yeah, it drives me nuts, needless paperwork and stuff like that. But it's not my company. And obviously they have it so they could stay organized. Unlike my company, which is not organized, and that. But it's just, I didn't think I was a prideful person. And, which I mean, everybody has pride to a certain degree, but I didn't realize that it's in moments like this when I get clear, after a trip and a fall and, a screw up, that I realized like, yeah, you're really prideful. Like you actually thought that you were smarter than a notebook. like you actually, or I have a high amount of will, but a low amount of discipline. I've kind of identified that in my life, because if I just decide, like sometimes I went for like an 11-mile run one time and I'd never run much past like 4 or 5. And I remember I just hit the zone where I was like, I'm not going to stop. And I was like praying my rosary and stuff like that. And it was an amazing run and all that, but it's not the same as discipline, and that's where my brother, with the one that is also an alcoholic, he really likes it's like his mantra is discipline equals freedom. But by Jocko Willink, he read that book, and I don't agree with that I don't know. I guess it depends on your perspective and things like that. Cause like, I don't think that's the type of freedom. Like I want spiritual freedom. Like I feel, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that you can discipline your way into spiritual freedom. I think that it's a component of it, but I think all the stuff we're talking about, this surrendering, this, dying to self, this isn't a discipline issue. This is a pride issue. It's an emotional, it's a spiritual issue. It's pride. Yeah.
Definitely. But, I mean, I think freedom happens inside of a domain. And so in a sense, there's a degree of discipline that's required, but like the domain, what I mean by a domain, like in this sense, is that's what the principles of the steps are. That's a domain. And so when I'm actually fully living in that, I feel the most free I've ever been. Like I'm actually in freedom.
Yeah, no. And I'm getting I had it mapped out differently in my head, like how this thing would look like, one of the things I hated about not like wanting to admit that I was an alcoholic is that I was going to have to admit that I was different, that I'm not like, I got a younger brother who, I think he's had some, I remember I've never wrecked a vehicle, drinking or anything like that. And I had a CDL, I didn't drink and, I have drank and drive, but seems like I did pretty good about keeping it to rare occasions and stuff like that. And there we go. That's a better way to put it. And I had a younger, brother that I think he's had some ups and downs with alcohol too, but he doesn't, he like does jujitsu, and he's like, just killing it in life, in that.
Yeah.
And he's just, I don't, but he also, he did go through he did some therapy stuff, and I think it made a big improvement on him. But yeah, he can stop and that, and I can't, and it when I was a little kid, I remember like being a homeschooler, you don't get to participate in a lot of things, and you feel kind of awkward, and you feel kind of out of organization with other people. You know what I mean? Like, because they seem to all be on this like one wavelength or something, like, and you're just not there. You view the world differently, unfortunately, when you're not raised with everybody else. And that yeah, well, yeah, like I didn't like, I thought I was normal, but no, it just, and at 39, I'm realizing that, like, no, you're very different. You're not. There's
you.
other people. What's that?
You are you.
Yeah.
You are not your brothers. You are not the fucking guy next to you. You are you. You have to have your own, like a genuine experience with who you are.
Yeah.
This is why, like, some of the kind of platitude shit annoys me, because it's like, we're not like, categories in a box or anything. We're actually, each of us are people who are having an experience in life, and there are no two lives that are exactly the same. There, like we can share our experience and find our place on the map of life and all that stuff together. But but I will say, though, like, alcoholics are uncannily alike. And the last thing you just said, like, there's this thing in here where I'm just gonna read this real quick because it's hilarious. This is page 30 in the literature. It says and the chapter is called More About Alcoholism. It says, most of us have been unwilling to admit that we're real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it's not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove that we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. It's like everything you just said.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, that's a relief.
No, it really is, because that's one of the things, like, I connect with people at church, but it's Sunday. We all got our families, and stuff like that. We're trying to get into mass and out of mass, and Jaylee's freaking out and crying and stuff. But like you were saying, you don't like people, but you like connection,
Mm-hmm.
and that's me. I like people, I kind of have to, just because I interact with them.
People. I only think I don't like them.
Yeah.
That's not. But the fact is, I love them. Like,
yeah, no, and
when I'm in a spot, though, dude, when I'm in a spot, and there's no convincing me otherwise, because I am stubborn especially when I'm sick, and my illness really resides in the petty. It resides in the petty and the seriousness. That's really where it kind of really takes real manifestation, is when my sense of justice is toyed with on a petty level, especially. And and so, like, and when I'm really serious, so like all the kind of like the stuff that can happen that's happening in the world around us, especially the internet is a really good place to kind of, like, for my illness to kind of really run rampant, that spiritual disconnection, because it's so serious. It doesn't really allow for childlike humor when I'm really sick, what I mean by sick is like just kind of like spiritually cut off when
Yeah.
and so yeah, it requires. It's hard. I've still not been able to solve the problem entirely, but at least I have some things I could do to kind of like get back. Like that's why I have a sponsor and shit. And the guy, like, I just fucking call him and say this is happening. And I feel like shit about this. I can say all this stuff, and he'll just laugh, and he laughs because he's been there, and it's reassuring and all that stuff. But it's somebody that kind of like, I guess, kind of like a priest. I would say that a sponsor, like a real sponsor, is a mediator, because he's a mediator in a lot of ways. He's kind of the one guy that at the end of the day, because I could talk to my pastor, but not in the same way that I can talk to
Yeah.
Mark.
No, I've been trying to connect with my priest a little bit more, and he's busy. He's got a billion things going on, and like our interactions, even when I'm kind of unloading, I'm trying to do that, like saddle up and unload a little bit, on him or whatever. He'll kind of say a few things and be like, yep. And he's like, you know what you need to do. And that he's an Eastern Indian guy. So he
Yeah.
kind of, and it sometimes seems dismissive, but yeah, I needed my priest today for confession,
Yeah.
but I needed this connection today too. This was got, I've already experienced, something today that, was completely God, and yeah, this is, you were the one that I needed to talk to, or I wanted to unload on. You,
Well,
Chad Albin, were very important to me today.
it's mutual. That's how this works. It's isn't like I don't think I'm giving you advice or anything. I think we're just sharing experience with what seems to work and what doesn't work, and kind of
Just
like
out of all the conversations I've had recently, this one I actually said things. Yeah, I actually said things. Yeah, a lot of times I'm just thinking, I'm spinning, I'm doing this, but yeah, when I saw you on, I was actually a little bit scared. Like I said, I lost track over the 4 days, and I didn't know if I had made a drunk text or anything like that, and it just, I was a little bit worried, that I said something or pissed you off or something like that, and I didn't remember it,
no.
but I just,
There's
yeah,
nothing that
no.
you will ever say. There's nothing that you will ever say to me. I don't care what the fuck it is. There's not a single thing that you will ever say to me where I won't receive your phone call. That's I don't care what it is. So you can be like calling you whatever it is, and be like, and fuck you, you fucking piece of shit. I'm never calling you again. Fuck the fuck off, and then hang up and never, and then call me the next day. I'll take the fucking call,
Okay.
because I know what this is. Oh, that's my wife.
Hey,
One moment.
I got to run too, brother.
All right, brother. Later.
Hey, I love you, man. Adios.
Okay. I'm gonna end the stream real soon here. I just wanted to say thank you, Josh, for coming on and talking with me. It meant a lot to me. Really helped me out. I was only on here tonight because Ann is at the hospital with her father right now, and um, seems like it might be really serious. So she was out, and Carolyn was sleeping, and that so gave me some time to be on here, and I'm grateful I was able to do it. So thank you, Josh, for coming on and talking with me. I really appreciate you, man. And so yeah, if you guys wanna, if you're the kind of people that pray, send some prayers out for our family. Um, thank you. God bless.